In this lesson, we'll take a look at how to draw a beetle with markers and colored pencils. We'll be working on marker paper, which is a nice smooth surface for accepting multiple layers of marker applications as well as colored pencil applications. We'll start with a lightly drawn contour line drawing of the subject, in this case a green beetle. Then we'll start applying our first applications of the marker. I'll be using prismacolor alcohol-based markers for this demonstration. We'll start with the color chartreuse. We're just going to define areas of color initially. After we've got some chartreuse on the surface, then we'll switch over to our next color, which is lime peel. A bit of reflected cool light exists around the outer edge of the beetle, so we'll switch over now to light cerulean blue and start defining some of these areas. Markers and colored pencils are a match made in heaven. They work well together, but we've got to apply the material in a specific order. We'll start with the markers, and then over the top we'll refine the details and enrich the colors with colored pencil applications. Now we'll switch over to our fourth color, and this time we're going to continue developing some of the greens, but this time we're going to start working our way towards the darker values with an application of dark olive green. When you're laying down your initial applications with marker like we are here, it's a good idea to start with the lighter colors first and progressively work your way to the darker colors. Lighter colors will not cover over the top of darker applications. Therefore, we need to consider the order in which we're applying the material, as I mentioned previously. If we start with darker applications and try to layer over the top lighter colors, you'll find that it's not quite possible to do so. Although the lighter applications will affect the color that you've already got in place, it's always a good idea to work from light to dark when you're starting with marker applications. We'll continue applying the dark olive green to various locations on the body of the beetle and the legs of the beetle. In the process, we're beginning to develop the relationships of value. Ultimately, the relationships of value will determine the light source and the strength of the light source, as well as communicate the illusion of form. Now that we have much of the green in place, we'll switch over to our next color, which is sienna brown. This color, as you can see, is really mostly closely related to a reddish brown. The reds and the green will contrast each other nicely because these colors are complementary colors. This will add quite a bit of pop and interest to our finished drawing. We'll make sure to disperse the color throughout the body of the beetle to create a bit of harmony and unity in the piece. We can also begin the process of developing some of the illusion of texture that happens on the back of the beetle. The back of the beetle has a bumpy surface. To create this illusion, we'll make small circles or small dots on the back with the sienna brown. Of course, we'll refine this illusion and develop it further with our colored pencil applications. The sienna brown is also applied to the legs of the beetle, again to ensure harmony and unity. Now we'll go back and start developing some of the lighter values that we've left open at this point, now with a bit of deco yellow to add to the green sections. We'll also enhance some of the areas of brown, this time with an application of light tan. You can see when we go over areas that we've already applied the marker with this color, the value gets slightly darker. You'll also see that the applications here are relatively loose. Again, we'll refine the details and refine the drawing with our colored pencil applications. Now we have a nice base of color created with our markers, we can start applying our colored pencil applications. We'll start by addressing some of the darker values that exist on the upper portion of the back of the beetle. We'll start here with an application of burnt umber. We'll make small circular strokes to help to mimic the texture of the back of the beetle. Then we'll quickly switch over to chartreuse and start developing some of the lighter areas as well. Now we can go back over the top of our darker burnt umber applications with a bit of dark green. This will lead to a more natural looking darker value instead of using black. Black has a tendency to make a drawing appear flat if you're not careful. Here again, we'll continue making small circular strokes as we apply the additional colors. We'll also work on creating smoother transitions of tone and value as the colored pencils are applied. Now, to help highlight the cooler edge, we'll add a bit of jade green. And then it's back with the dark green again, working on the transition from light to dark. We'll continue to use the dark green to apply small dots to help create that illusion of a bumpy texture. Now with a bit of indigo blue, we'll start defining some of the edges that happen around this first section. There of course are some darker values that exist here. A combination of indigo blue and burnt umber usually leads to a more natural looking black. The beetle's head is quite a bit lighter, so we'll use a healthy amount of jade green here, and then we'll darken up the values to increase the contrast using indigo blue and dark green. We'll continue applying the dark green until we have an acceptable transition of value from light to dark. We can also enhance the lighter values by adding a bit of a lighter green, in this case, yellow chartreuse. Now we'll move our way to our first leg. We'll start with an application of dark green. As we go, we can use the sharpened pencil to define the edge. Then over the top, we can start applying our burnt umber to make the values quite a bit darker. You'll see that the colored pencil applications do not cover the marker applications completely. Some of the colors are allowed to show through. Now we can simply continue working our way down the body of the beetle to the next section. We'll start here with an application of dark umber, addressing all of the darker values in this section. And then here again, a bit of chartreuse to address some of the lighter values, a bit of jade green to create that illusion of a lighter reflected light, and then we'll increase the contrast again by applying burnt umber and indigo blue. Of course, dark green is used in these sections as well. A bit of the reddish brown can be found in this section, so we'll address it with a bit of burnt ochre. We'll also pull some of these burnt ochre applications down to the lower portion of the body, as this color will be quite a bit more dominant here. We'll switch back over to the chartreuse and again the dark green. We'll continue to use these colors in each section to ensure that we have harmony and unity throughout the piece. We'll use some of the dark brown here to enhance some of the details, and then it's back to the burnt ochre to again bring in some more of those reddish browns. We'll define the edge between each one of these sections again with a combination of burnt umber and indigo blue. We'll also use the burnt umber to establish some of the shadowed areas as we have throughout the piece. We'll address the next set of arms in the same manner, starting with a bit of dark green and then going over the top of it with burnt umber. We'll also use the indigo blue here to make the values quite a bit darker. Since we're working with green, we can make some of the darker shadowed areas a bit cooler with the indigo blue applications if we prefer, or we can make them a bit warmer with the burnt umber applications. We want to ensure that we have variety throughout the piece, even in these small intricate areas in each one of the sections of the leg. So we're going to have a bit of variety in the way that we apply the colored pencils. We're going to have a little bit more of the burnt umber dominant in areas and a little bit more of the indigo blue dominant in areas as well. Now to our two lower sections of the back part of the body, we'll start here with an application of the dark green. You can see here that I'm applying it quite a bit lighter because I'm allowing some of the browns to show through. This again will encourage a bit of variety and complexity in the color. We'll use the jade green around the edges to enhance some of the lighter and cooler highlights that we have around the body. And just like we considered when we started our applications with the markers, we're going to allow ourselves to be cognizant of the applications that we're making. We want to make sure that we don't get too dark too quickly with the colored pencil applications. If we get too dark, it's going to be hard to lighten up areas as far as the value goes. So we're being very cautious as we're applying these colors. Here with a bit more of the burnt ochre, and then again with our chartreuse. And then we'll steadily increase the contrast and darken some of the values in areas here with the burnt umber. As we go, as I mentioned before, we're creating a bit more complexity in the color. Because we have the marker applications in place, and some of these marker applications are going to show through our colored pencil applications, we can really build up transitions of color and value and have complete control over those transitions of color and value with the colored pencils. We can ease the transitions of value and color even further by applying a colorless blender as we see here over the top of our colored pencil applications. The colorless blender, of course, is just the waxy binder of the colored pencil material. It has no pigment at all, so it allows us to move the wax that we have on the surface from our previous colored pencil applications around relatively easily, creating a transition. By working the waxy colored pencils into the surface of the paper, we're essentially burnishing the applications. Burnishing can also be accomplished, as we see here, with a lighter color, in this case a bit of cream. Now over the top of these applications, we can start developing some of the details, in this case specifically the texture of the back of the beetle. We'll use a bit of dark green in the green sections, and we'll use a bit of the burnt umber in the browner sections to start developing that texture with small circles. We'll also use indigo blue to a certain degree to add a bit more variety in each one of these dimples. There are some hints of some light yellow-green in this section as well, so we'll accomplish this with a bit of the chartreuse. To make our browner sections slightly redder, we'll use a bit of sienna brown. This is still very much a warmer earth tone of brown, of course, but it does have a little bit more of a red undertone. This, of course, will increase the contrast between the red and green even further. Then we'll enhance some of the details with a bit of cream in the middle section before moving on to our last section of the back of the bug. Here again, we'll start with relatively light applications with the dark green, allowing some of our marker applications to show through. We'll enhance the lighter values, this time with a bit of chartreuse, and all the time we're creating small circular applications with the pencil to create the illusion of texture. And of course, we'll stay consistent with the same colors that we've used throughout the drawing, this time with a bit of burnt ochre. We'll use cream to make some of the values slightly lighter, and then of course we'll enhance the darker values with a combination of burnt umber and indigo blue in areas. As the contrast of value and color becomes stronger, the texture becomes clearer. We'll of course enhance some of the shadowed areas on the back end of the bug where the shadows are the strongest, again with burnt umber. And we'll enhance the reflected highlight around the outer portion of the bug, again with jade green. We can use a combination of burnt umber and indigo blue to define the outer outline. Now, outline's the wrong word here. We do have an area of high contrast around the outside portion of the bug, and in this particular drawing it's reading as an outline, but it really is just a strong contrast in value. We'll use the colorless blender over the top of our applications to downplay a bit of the contrast and create a more natural looking surface. Here a bit of indigo blue is applied over the top of the burnt umber applications to make this outer edge a bit darker. Then a bit of dark green, and again a little bit of the yellow chartreuse to lighten up some of the values. We'll use this yellow chartreuse in a couple other areas to ensure harmony and unity. We'll finish up a bit of the details on the back of the bug with a bit of dark umber, and then we'll move on to the very end of the bug where we have a dark location of tone. We'll use a combination again of burnt umber and indigo blue to address this last section. Now all that's remaining are the two remaining legs and of course the cast shadow. We'll address the two legs as we did before. In this case, we'll start with a bit of the dark green. And here again, we'll leave some of the marker applications showing through for variety. Burnt ochre is applied over the top of some of the reddish brown areas to enhance the color. And then of course, we'll make the values quite a bit darker by using a combination of burnt umber and indigo blue. And since we're working with a sharpened pencil, we can really concentrate on refining the edge and all the intricate details that happen in each section of the leg. Our last leg, of course, is addressed in the same manner, starting with applications with the dark green. We'll add a bit of burnt ochre in there, and then of course we'll enhance the contrast and make the values darker by applying burnt umber and indigo blue. Now we're ready to address the cast shadow and really make this bug stand out from the surface. We'll start with an application of 50% cool gray, and we'll just mimic the shape of the bug. Of course, the intensity of the shadow will get stronger as we get closer to the body of the bug, and it should fade out as it extends away from the bug. In this case, our light source is originating from the upper right-hand corner. This creates an area of cast shadow below and behind the bug, primarily on the left side of the body. We'll go over the top of this 50% cool gray application with the colorless blender to make the shadow appear more natural. Then we can make the shadows a little bit stronger by applying a bit more of our 50% cool gray with slightly heavier pressure. And now our drawing of a beetle created with markers and colored pencils is complete. If you're ready to learn more about drawing and painting, then check out our comprehensive membership program, which includes video courses, weekly live lessons, ebooks, lesson plans for teachers, and much, much more. To learn more about our program, just click on the card in the upper right-hand corner or visit thevirtualinstructor.com/members today. And if you'd like to check out 3 of our course modules for free, you can do so by joining our mailing list. Just click on the link you see here on your screen. You'll get access to 3 of our course modules, which includes videos and ebooks, and of course you'll get updates when new lessons are posted on the website. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.